If everyone had proper backups, ransomware would never have been a thing. Just simple as that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CyberWire's Hacking Humans podcast, where each week we look behind the social engineering scams, phishing schemes, and criminal exploits that are making headlines and taking a heavy toll on organizations around the world. I'm Dave Bittner from the CyberWire, and joining me is Joe Kerrigan from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
We got some good stories this week, and later in the show, Michael Gillespie from Emsisoft joins us. He's going to describe the ID Ransomware project, and we're also going to get his insights on how users and organizations can protect themselves from these sorts of threats. But first, a word from our sponsors at KnowBe4. So how do you train people to recognize and resist social engineering? Here are some things people think. Test them, and if they fall for a test scam, fire them. Or other people say if someone flunks the test, shame them. Instead of Employee of the Month, it's Doofus of the Day. Or maybe you pass out a gift card to the one who gets the A+ for skepticism in the face of phishing. So how about it? What do you think? Carrots or sticks? What would you do? Later in the show, we'll hear what the experts at KnowBe4 have to say. They're the sponsors of this show. And we are back. Joe, why don't you kick things off for us this week?
Dave, this week I have a story from Bleeping Computer.
Okay.
And it's just something they've noticed in their email over there. They have noticed that they've gotten an uptick in a very unsophisticated phishing campaign. And here's how it works. They started receiving these messages that read something like, hey, please click here to confirm your unsubscribe request.
Okay.
There's no mention of what they're unsubscribing from, but it looks like one of these messages that you used to get when you would subscribe to a news list and you'd say, okay, I don't want to get this anymore. And you click the unsubscribe button and they'd send you an email to confirm that you were unsubscribing. It was a very convoluted and terrible system.
Right.
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 And it looks like it's trying to imitate that from days gone by. And they have some images of these emails in the article, and we'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
And they look like they are from the same template, from the same toolkit to me. And I'm going to speculate on that later.
Okay.
But the link, the unsubscribe part of the email, is actually a mail to link. Right. Now, this is an HTML feature that you used to see all over web pages where you see contact the webmaster or email me.
Right.
And you click on a link and it opens up your native, whatever your default mail client is, and populates everything for you with a subject line and a to address.
Yeah.
And if you are silly enough to click on the link that comes in this email, then it will start a new email for you and try to send it to something like 15 to 20 email addresses.
Email addresses it gets from where?
From it, they're in the HTML in the email that you receive. So that link is a mail to link with 15 email addresses in it, 15 to 20 email addresses in it. And the subject line is unsubscribe. And that's all that's in there. That's a blank email. In a mail to link, you can fill out other stuff like body and all this other information, CC, BCC,
right,
if you wanted to. But it's an older thing that you don't really see on the web very much anymore. You still see it from time to time, but it's because HTML is now permeated into our email system as well. It's a feature that's available here. Now, Bleeping Computer speculates, and I would agree with this assessment as well, that what this is an attempt to validate good email addresses. We talked about this a couple months ago with the unsubscribe link, right? When you click on that unsubscribe link, that actually validates that your email address is being used and read, and there's a person on the other end. This looks like they're taking some kind of spam list that they bought. Maybe they bought a spam list at a steep discount. They're essentially going through and they're distilling their list down to a more pure product for future campaigns. I tend to agree with that assessment that Bleeping Computer has. But here's my theory on this. The messages look very similar. The two images in the article, they look very similar. They're just worded a little bit differently, and maybe there's some typing that didn't happen in one that happened in the other. I think this is a phishing kit that somebody's developed, and you're going to start seeing these coming around.
Well, so here's what I wonder. If I hit the unsubscribe button, and that sends out 15 to 20 emails.
Correct.
Those are coming from me.
Correct.
How are the bad guys getting notification as to whether those 15 or 20 emails are good or not?
The bad guys are the 15 to 20 email addresses. So when you click that link, you're sending 15 to 20 bad guys an email.
From you.
From you.
Oh.
Right.
Huh. Okay.
So that's how this works. Now, why are there 15 to 20 of them? I have a theory about this.
Go on.
This is a wild theory, but I've never seen this before in something like this. So perhaps the phishing kit developers put their own email addresses into that mail to tag, and these operators who bought it didn't replace them. They just added theirs to it. So essentially, the kit developers are getting all these free hits on good email addresses. I have a prediction on how this is going to get worse.
Okay.
The next kit will have a feature where you can click a link and it will go to a website. The link in the website will then validate the email because it will have a unique code. That's how this is going to get better. I mean, in terms of a more proper phishing campaign, right? I mean, this is really
to them.
This is a real hack phishing campaign. It's very basic and rudimentary. It relies on email and relies on people sending an email to 20 email addresses. It probably works.
Just to gather up good email addresses.
To hoover up good email addresses.
Which I guess they can then turn around and sell for a fraction of a penny or use for
another campaign, probably.
Okay. So the lesson here is...
don't click on the link. If you didn't ask for it, don't open it. Mark it as spam in your email client, throw it in the trash, be done with it.
Especially if it gives you no indication of what it is you're unsubscribing from.
Yeah, that's the red flag. And the picture in the article, one of them just looks like just total amateurs came up with this. Amateur hackers get results, actually.
Well, I can imagine someone going through and just cleaning house one day. Just, today is the day I'm going to go through and get rid of all these newsletters that I don't want to. And so they're just clicking unsubscribe, and they hit this one and it's just one of 10 or 20 and...
oh, this one wants me to send an email. Okay, click, off you go.
Right. They do a search in their email client for the word unsubscribe, and off they go.
Yep.
All right. To me, this one is a combination of both interesting and a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
The delayed gratification, I suppose, is not something we're accustomed to seeing from these sorts of folks, right?
No, it's not. But I mean, there are people that do very complex and long-minded campaigns. They take the long view on these things. Mm-hmm. And like you said, a list of validated email addresses is valuable. If I could sell that list to other spammers, I can probably make good money off that.
Right. And if you can do it in an automated way,
right,
there's very little effort on your part.
Even better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my story this week comes to us from Fast Company. This is a story titled, "We Keep Falling for Phishing Emails and Google Just Revealed Why." This is from Rob Pecoraro. He's writing over at Fast Company. This is from the Black Hat Security Conference, which just wrapped up recently in Las Vegas. And a couple of security researchers from Google, it was Ellie Burstein, and from the University of Florida, a professor, Daniela Oliveira. They shared some information that they had gathered up from Google, and this article outlines how Google blocks roughly 100 million phishing emails every day.
Right.
And they
seems low, doesn't it?
Well, it says they fall into three main categories: highly targeted but low volume spear phishing, which are aimed at distinct individuals. The next category they call boutique phishing, which targets only a few dozen people. And then there's the automated bulk phishing, which is the stuff that's just the shotgun approach that goes out to everybody. How long do you think a phishing campaign runs for? What is the duration that you think one of these is in operation? You're talking about sending out an email to a given email list? Yeah. I set up a phishing campaign and I hit the go button on it. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. All right. That's my guess. Okay. Google says that the boutique campaigns typically run for about 7 minutes. 7 minutes? And the bulk operations run for about 13 hours. Okay. Which is interesting because you can see how that makes the cat and mouse game more difficult. Right. When something's only running for 7 minutes, it comes and goes. You can't build a fingerprint off it, right? I mean, because by the time you've got the data, the attack is over. Right. They also said that most of the phishing campaigns target commercial mail services. Your corporate email account is almost 5 times more likely to receive a phishing email than a plain old Gmail account. Right. That's probably because Google has a much better mechanism for catching that phishing email than your corporate email does. Interesting point. They said that the most common impersonated login pages were for email services, 42%. 25% were cloud services, followed by financial institutions, retail, and delivery services. It's interesting, too, that they said Google can't identify many phishing emails. They vary enough that they're evolving so quickly, and the way that they're composed, the AI isn't quite there yet to be able to reliably stop them every time. Well, you think about we've talked about how run-of-the-mill spam is pretty much a solved problem. You know, the old Viagra pills and, you know, those kinds of, those hardly ever make it through anymore.
Right.
But the phishing stuff still does.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing from this presentation they talked about how the human factors, like whether or not you're in a good mood, really affects your susceptibility to phishing emails.
And what were the findings about mood versus susceptibility?
If you're in a good mood, you are much more likely to be in a mental mode where you're going to be willing to take risks.
Right.
So you're more likely to click that link.
Right.
Right. Because what's the worst that could happen? I'm in a great mood. I'm having a great day.
I'm immediately picturing myself in a bad mood going, I'm not doing that.
Right. Delete. Right. You're in a bad mood just from being presented with the link at all. Right. In an email. That just puts you in a bad mood. Yeah. Yeah. And the recommendations they made, ground we've covered before. Most important is just some sort of two-step verification. And as we've talked about here many times, SMS is good, but a physical device or using something like Google's Authenticator or Yubico, those sorts of things are all
much better.
Much better. Yep. So some interesting stats there from Google, courtesy of the folks over at Fast Company. So that is my story this week. Joe, it is time to move on to our catch of the day.
My favorite part of the show.
So our catch of the day this week comes from a listener named Jojis, and I hope I got that right. It's a tricky one. There are many possible pronunciations I can imagine, so I apologize in advance if I did not get it correct. We do appreciate you sending it in, and this is a message that he received, and it goes like this. Aloha! As your affairs? I would like better to find out each other. I search reliable for relations and networks. My name is Katyusha. I positive and sociable the woman. I have no bad habits. I do not smoke and I do not use spirits. I love to be engaged fitness. If not against throughout ours acquaintances, let to me know. If you want, I can tell to you more about myself. I never was married and do not have the kinder. Please write to me more about you. I wish to fasten acquaintance with you and to find out you better. If you can, please, you have come to me photos, and after I will send to you mine photos. With impatience I wait your answer with huge impatience. With the best regards, Katyusha. You think this went through Google Translate or something, Joe?
It could be.
All right, my favorite is, I wish to fasten acquaintance with you.
Right. Where does it talk about spirits? I do not use spirits. Mm-hmm. Right. I.e., I don't drink.
Right. Right. This is why I'm thinking this was sent through a translator.
Right.
Yeah, I do not have the kinder. I imagine that means I don't have children.
Right.
As in kindergarten, that sort of thing.
But why? Why kinder?
I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great one.
Yeah.
I love this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Short and sweet, simple. Thank you to Jojis for sending it in to us. Again, apologies if I got the name wrong. All right. Well, that is our catch of the day. Coming up next, we've got Michael Gillespie from Emsisoft joining us. He's going to describe the ID Ransomware project, and we're going to get his insights on how users and organizations can best protect themselves from the threats we talk about here. But first, a word from our sponsors at KnowBe4. Let's return to our sponsor KnowBe4's question: carrots or sticks? Stu Showerman, KnowBe4's CEO, is definitely a carrot man. You train people, he argues, in order to build a healthy security culture. And sticks don't do that. Approach your people like the grown-ups they are, and they'll respond. Learning how to see through social engineering can be as much fun as learning how a conjuring trick works. Hear more of Stu's perspectives in KnowBe4's weekly Cyber Heist News. We read it, and we think you'll find it valuable too. Sign up for Cyber Heist News at knowbe4.com/news. That's knowbe4.com/news. Joe, I recently had the pleasure of speaking with Michael Gillespie. He's from Emsisoft, and he also runs the ID Ransomware website. Doing some really good stuff here. Here's my interview with Mike Gillespie.
ID Ransomware is a website that I built, over 3 years ago now. It's flown. Its primary purpose is identifying a ransomware, and this came out of a need from being a volunteer on the Bleeping Computer forums mostly. The forums would get completely swamped with people, opening new topics, and it kind of became chaos with like, hey, my files have this extension and this is the ransom note. What hit me? Can I get my files back? Everything between me and the moderators was like canned responses. Oh, well, you have this extension, so it's most likely this ransomware. Here's a link to an article about it, and very canned responses over and over. And well, my profession is I'm a programmer, so what do? I automate.
Well, walk us through what exactly goes on. How does it function?
When you get to the website, basically it just asks you to upload the ransom note and one of the files that the ransomware encrypted, and you just upload both of those pieces of information. Of course, recommend you upload something non-private if you can. I don't keep the files around, but just for general purposes, you shouldn't be uploading personal information somewhere anyway.
Right.
And then my website does a lot of cross-referencing, checking the file extension, checking the name of the ransom note, all the email addresses or Bitcoin addresses or maybe onion addresses in the note. Also, some ransomware leave like a file marker. Like, for example, Tesla Crypt left a file marker saying dead beef at the beginning of the file. Some other ransomware have like more in-depth detection. I have like special code just to detect that one ransomware. So there's also other sources I pull from. There's like a ransomware tracker that's an external project by someone that they track like all the command center URLs. I cross-reference with that, and it's a big beast. It's got a lot of stuff under the hood for detections.
And what's the likelihood that you'll be able to ID something that someone sends to you?
It's probably up in the like 90 to 95% with identification. The challenge is that there are, well, in the last few years especially, there's been additional challenges with ransomware like mimicking each other. So that does add an extra layer of complexity. But I do have like a whole false positive engine that I built for that purpose. I mean, you can just upload just the ransom note or just an encrypted file, but the best accuracy is definitely uploading both so that it can do its false positives and try to figure that out better.
And then once you've ID'd something, do you offer advice for folks on how they might either be able to decrypt or proceed?
Yep. So there are basically a couple of different, I call them statuses. The best case, of course, is congratulations, this is a decryptable ransomware. It's known to be decryptable. Here's a link to an article showing how to use a decryptor. Then there's the, sorry, this has been analyzed by experts as not decryptable. It's recommended you back up your files in case something changes in the future. Then there's like the unknown. There are a lot of ransomware that, it might be something that's really new. So I don't know if it's decryptable or not, or no one in the industry has either had the time or published an analysis on it, whether it's secure or not. And then there's also kind of a gray area. I have a possible status that's kind of like, this is decryptable under certain circumstances. So there's like certain ransomware that's like, sometimes it forgets to delete the key file, but you got to get lucky. Or sometimes it's like law enforcement seized the server and they got some of the keys, but not every key. So it's kind of like you might get lucky. It might be decryptable.
Now, in the years that you've been tracking ransomware, what sort of changes have you seen? How has it evolved?
I definitely say they keep getting more creative. Like in general, like I mentioned, they keep mimicking each other, which gets very, very annoying. There's probably like 100 different ransomware that just use the extension .locked. So those are like not unique, so I can't identify them very well. And then also they keep adding more, I want to say, features. So like, for example, a recent one that's been really prolific is Stop DJ Vu. That one, they started packaging password stealers. So like adding other malware with it. They add it to a botnet or like a banking Trojan. So they're kind of getting more creative. And even just a ransomware I analyzed last week that I'm breaking currently, they kind of took liberty and invented their own crypto block mode, which was very odd to reverse.
Do you have any sense for the spectrum of sophistication of the actors that you're dealing with here?
I mean, I have seen definitely a lot of cases of pretty sophisticated actors, especially the ones that are targeting certain organizations, the ones that actually are in a network, not just the spray and pray sending out email spam, but once they actually get remoted into the server, those are usually the more dangerous bad guys.
Now, in terms of folks best protecting themselves from ransomware, what's your advice?
Backups. Freaking backups.
I get the feeling that you're recommending backups here, Michael.
Yes. That is the number one thing. There's basically two factors in terms of why ransomware still even is a thing. If everyone had proper backups, ransomware would never have been a thing. Just simple as that. There'd be no profit for it because everyone would just be like, hit the restore button. Mm-hmm. That's how it should be. The second factor, of course, is the whole controversy of paying the bad guys. That's what keeps them going. But there'd be no reason to pay them if you had backups.
I mean, do you have any sympathy for some of these larger, underfunded organizations? I'm thinking of, city governments and so forth who find themselves either with insufficient backups or unreliable backups and, doing the best they can. But sometimes I guess they decide that the cheapest way out is to pay the ransom.
That is a very complicated subject, of course.
Yeah.
I've been in IT for goodness since like 2006, and I also work for a company that services small to medium business and residential, and I get everywhere from the spectrum of grandma doesn't know how to back up her stuff to small business who the IT manager is trying to push for certain infrastructure and it's just not getting budgeted. To my core, I'm like, sorry, there's no excuse for not having backups in 2019. I mean, cloud storage is, I don't want to say it's dirt cheap, depending on your needs. I mean, for grandma, you can get her a free Dropbox with 10 gigs of backup space for nothing. Or you can get, Carbonite or OneDrive or something that's like $2 to $5 a month.
Right.
It's very affordable for residential for sure. But in terms of business, it kind of irks me, especially certain industries where the data is your business. Like, for example, I kind of went on a rant a few months ago on like the photography industry. I run into that all the time where photographers get hit by ransomware and they have absolutely no backups. And it's just, it blows my mind. Your entire business model is taking and storing digital pictures for your clients, and you can't have the tenacity to buy $100 backup terabyte drive and just back up that wedding's photos as soon as you finish the shoot. That just irks me.
What about the sophistication of some of the ransomware strains that try to hunt down your backups and encrypt those as well?
That is definitely a reason that you should have an off-site backup, such as a cloud backup. Most good cloud backups, I know for certain, Carbonite, Dropbox, and Google Drive have a revision system to where if, for example, if you get hit by ransomware and it uploads your encrypted files and overwrites your backup, Carbonite actually has a way that you can roll back to a week ago. So they have like set in revisions. That would definitely be, if you're looking into a cloud provider, I'd definitely look in to make sure they have that feature.
You bring up a good point. It's something we talk about on this show quite a bit, which is, those of us who have some abilities, in the technical realm, looking out for our friends and family. I think about my parents, for example, and just, going in there behind the scenes and setting them up for success.
Yep. I've had to do that for some of my family as well. And I know it's, as the IT guy in the family, sometimes it's a little annoying. You go to Thanksgiving dinner and grandma's asking you weird computer questions. You're like, right. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, at a minimum, at least just set them up on, like Dropbox or like Windows 10 really forces the OneDrive down your throat. So just embrace it for her.
Joe, what do you think?
I like what Michael's doing.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I like the fact that you can go there, you can upload some samples. He's got a false positive engine. That's great. And then he points you in the direction of free decryptors. There's also a site, nomoreransom.org, which does a similar thing that offers decryptors. I think you can download them directly from there. I like that Michael's site will go through the process of IDing the ransomware for you and telling you what the strain is. And running a lot of analytics on the data that you give it.
Mm-hmm. He's one of those folks out there who's helping make the internet a better place for the rest of us, using his skills, his technical skills.
Absolutely. No, he's doing good work.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Also helping people when they're at a moment when they're probably not feeling very good about things.
No. Interesting about, what was it, the Tesla ransomware? He was talking about it had a file tag at the beginning, dead beef.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very old thing. It's the words you can spell with hexadecimal characters. So it's, I don't know if that has any bearing on anything. I just think it's interesting.
It's just an old hacker thing from back in the day.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
I totally see how mimicking can be frustrating. The mimicking that goes on in that marketplace can be frustrating. Because particularly when you're trying to identify these strains of ransomware and they start mimicking each other or maybe even just copying code from each other, that's going to make that job a little more difficult. And I think I have to agree with what Michael said, that the first 4 rules of computing are backup, 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 and backup.
Right.
I actually am a user of OneDrive, Google Drive, and I used to be a user of Dropbox as well. I don't have an account with them anymore that I pay for. But I was working today with Audacity, which creates a whole bunch of files for every change you make to any audio file you're working with. And then if you undo it, it deletes those files that it just created. And every time I undid a change, I got a warning from OneDrive that said, hey, you just deleted a bunch of files. Did you mean to do that? Right? You'd get that if you got a bunch of files deleted or encrypted as well.
Right.
You can roll back 30 days with OneDrive as well, and all the other products that Michael mentioned.
I guess the point is that these days, with the availability of online data, it's really cost effective to back up online. You combine that with higher speed connectivity.
Right.
People's connections to the net are faster. So it makes it practical to store your stuff online.
It does. And you can get it anywhere as well. Whatever these cloud storage solutions, they have multiple platform solutions. So you can get your data on your Android device or your Apple device or your laptop. Doesn't matter. You can have access to your data. And you get protection from ransomware if you put all your data in the cloud. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. And you can use more than one.
That's right.
Right. All right. Well, again, thanks to Michael Gillespie from Emsisoft for joining us and all the work he's doing there at the ID.
Thanks for the work, Michael. That's amazing.
The ID Ransomware site. Good stuff. Nice to have folks like that out there. Yep. That is our podcast. We want to thank our sponsors at KnowBe4, whose new school security awareness training will help you keep your people on their toes with security at the top of their mind. Stay current about the state of social engineering by subscribing to their cyber heist news at knowbe4.com/news. Think of KnowBe4 for your security training. Thanks to the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute for their participation. You can learn more at isi.jhu.edu. The Hacking Humans podcast is proudly produced in Maryland at the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our coordinating producer is Jennifer Iben. Our editor is John Petrick. Technical editor is Chris Russell. Our staff writer is Tim Nodar. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie. I'm Dave Bittner.
And I'm Joe Kerrigan.
Thanks for listening.